Alright, yes, welcome to another devlog. As a quick recap as to what we done before, we completed the, what's it called? Completed the strike, the super strike. That's what it's called. So super strike was done in ball, paddle, and game manager. That's all sorted basically in terms of the logic. That's all sorted. We also added stuff to game feel in terms of screen shake, a variable screen shake on the super shot build up, and then also dabbled in terms of controller vibrations on ball hit and stuff like that. So I can show you quickly what the game looks like right now. Let's build it. That should work, yeah. So obviously with the vibrations you won't be able to tell, but you can see with the screen shake, just like normal. You can play around. You can see the super shot, if I manage to get one, slows down correctly, transports the ball with momentum. And again, I do need to tweak that, but for now it will be fine. And then you can see the variable screen shake, pause, and then a big sort of screen shake right at the end of super shot, just to signify that it's a big shot. It really adds to the feel of like super shot, to be fair. That's really good. I like how it's coming together. Obviously with the controller vibrations you can't feel it, but every shot that I take right now I'm getting a vibration, and the deeper the ball is and the harder the charge is, the stronger the vibration is. And then on super shot what we've got is right now there's no vibration and there's a really big vibration at the end here. So that's what we got. That's good. In terms of next steps, I did write it down. Alhamdulillah. So I want to tweak the existing vibrations. I think the one at the end of super shot is fine. That's all good. The ones for the regular shots, it's a bit too weak. I don't know if it's because I don't know if it's because turned off. I don't know if it's because it's too short or the values I've put in are too weak. But I want to make it a little bit stronger, not too strong. I like it being subtle, but not too subtle. And then also in the next step, what I'm going to do is add vibration for the super shot slowdown build up. That's this part here. So here with the screen shake, I want to add some type of vibration as well. The one at the end of super shot, where there's a big boom, there's already a vibration and it feels good. I don't need to tweak that. So that's the next step. And after that, we'll get on to other things, but I'm going to try get that done. And I'll explain how I did it. Alright, that is sorted now. It was relatively quick, but like I said, it was a smaller job. So inside game feel, in terms of tweaking the values I've already got for the normal shots, what I did was inside on ball hit we do hit rumble. Inside do hit rumble, I've got the same code. I've just got this line here. mathf.pow raw intensity 0.75. Essentially this tweaks it so that it feels more punchy. I don't know how the .pow thing works. I know it raises something to the power of y. Obviously it's got to do with maths and raising to the power, but essentially what it's doing is it's boosting things here because of this 0.75. And then for the build up rumble, I'm calling this inside process, so every single frame apply screen shake, apply build up rumble. We check, we've already got that variable and that method get build up intensity for the screen shake. So since that's there, we pull that in, get the data for that. We can plug that directly into Rumble. And when I was playing around with it, what it felt like was on the build up, it was far too intense in terms of. Let me show you here. So the way it was screen shaking, but it was far too intense early on in terms of the rumble. It didn't quite match what was happening on screen. So again, I've used the same principle that I had early on for do hit rumble, getting in the raw intensity, then doing mathf.pow, so raw intensity to the power of 2, and what that does, if you set this to 2 or above, it will crush the early like lower values more while not affecting the peak. And that's the effect it has, and that's what I needed because the peak was fine. What it ended up on was fine. It was just early on that ramp up felt far too strong. I wanted I want I wanted it to be a little bit more weaker. So now I've got it done, sorted, show you how it is, but obviously you're not gonna be able to like feel it because this was just a purely vibrational thing. So now when I play, it feels much better. These normal hits feel more snappy and subtle, but not too strong. Then on a super shot, slight rumble, big rumble, and then a big like rumble right at the end there, and it really matches. I wanted to tweak it because I wanted it to really match the screen shake that was happening on screen. Even though I am going to offer like an option for players to turn it off because it's not everyone's cup of tea. But I did want to include it and make sure that it matches correctly, and it does quite well actually. I like how it's all put together now. So that's good. Rumble's fine, screen shake's fine. That I'm happy with. Next step. So we've done both of those. That's sorted. All right. In terms of after that now. Now I did have so super hit, that's sorted. All right, that's good. The next step was gonna be add targets for the player to hit on the play field. Let me lower this. So I was gonna add targets for the player to hit. I do want to just stay inside game field for a bit and just add one more thing, and that's shifting the camera on paddle movement and possibly on strike. What that means, let me try draw it out first. So we've got this, turn this off. So we've got our, let's say this is our camera view. Right, this is what the camera sees, and this is the actual like field. Right, so like when the wedge is moving left and right, I do want to like slightly shift or maybe even tilt the camera a little bit so that if the player is moving left, the camera cut slightly. I don't want it to be too. Again, it's another one of those things. It has to be subtle, not too noticeable, but just add to the feel of the game. Where if the player moves left and maybe even moves faster or slower, it's variable. Slightly tilt the camera left or slightly shift the camera left to add a little bit of momentum. Same thing to the right side, slightly move it right. Same thing with like ball hit, like every time the player hits the ball, depending on the quality of the strike, if it's a harder strike or low strike, shift the camera up slightly so that it kind of feels like you're really into the game. That's one way. Another way, or we've got the score, whatever lives. We've got the HUD. Another thing that I want to tweak is I correctly detached HUD from the screen shake, so that's good. I didn't want the HUD to shake with it because I want it to be readable. But I've seen a lot in games that sometimes the HUD moves. So if the player moves left, the HUD will slightly shift left. The player moves right, the HUD will slightly shift right. On a strike, the HUD shifts up, stuff like that. I don't know whether to incorporate both of them or just one of them. That's the problem. My worry is that I'm already doing screen shakes, so what's actually better in terms of like strikes and movement is just do that on the HUD and have the HUD do like these shifty movements and allow the camera just to shake for ball hits and super shots. That's one thing I'm thinking about theoretically, or to just do it for the camera movement as well. Or forget about HUD, just do it for camera movement, or do it for both. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether to do both. I know, okay, so I think I know I want to do the HUD one. So, in terms of next step, I'm going to try to incorporate something for the HUD where the player moves left and right, the HUD slightly shifts left and right. The player strikes the ball, the HUD slightly shifts up. And on a super strike, the HUD will shift up at a much more aggressive angle, aggressive sort of velocity. I'm going to try to implement that. And then I'll try to implement the same thing for screen offset, for camera offset, so that the camera also moves as well, maybe at a different speed. And I'll try play around with how it feels to have both of them on, as opposed to just the HUD on, as opposed to like playing around with the intensity of the camera movements for both, and see which one actually feels better. So this is one where I feel like I have to build both. And even though I might not use one of them, the only way to really make that decision is to feel it for myself. So I'm going to try to implement both. I'm guessing it's going to have to be in the HUD script and in the game feel script as well. Or actually, since they're both game feel, it has to be both into game field. I'm going to try to implement both of them, play around with it, show you what I got, and come to a decision as to what kind of camera movements I want. So yeah, I'm going to do that now. Alright, so that is done. How do I explain? There's a lot of stuff that I've implemented. I'm not going to bore you with the details, and a lot of it I had to get help with from AI. I just simply didn't know how to do it, and it had to do with like Delta and a bunch of stuff. So, firstly, I realized that for the camera offset, if I'm doing any type of rotation and offset on the camera, what you don't want to do is just, oh, the shake offset, the camera camera offset equals shake offset, camera offset equals drift. Because if you do that, they actually override each other. What best to do is to add it to the offset and then just sum them all up, basically. at the end, so that they stack on top of each other, so that if I have screen shake and like a camera drift as well, with that, the drift doesn't cancel out the shake, and the shake doesn't cancel out the drift, and they actually work in combination. So I've done that. I had to create a new method called apply all camera fill. So that's any type of movement to do with the camera. I'm putting it in there, calculating all of it inside here, and then at the end just summing all of them up, summing all the offset up and summing all the rotation up, and just applying it once to the camera. And that's being called inside apply all camera fill. I'm passing in delta as well. I'll explain that in a minute. So in apply all camera fill, we're checking, alright, if screen shake's enabled, the final offset, add the shake offset on top. Final rotation, add the shake rotation. This is coming from calculate screen shake over here. And I've changed that. Before that was a void and it was applying the screen shake directly. This time I'm returning a tuple, the offset and the rotation, and at the end I'm returning it offset and rotation. So that way inside my apply all camera fill, if screen shake's enabled, shake offset and shake rotation equals calculate screen shake, and then just add that on top of the final offset. So that's fine. Then I've got camera drift enabled, and I've also got for the future camera kick enabled. That's for the future. For this, drift offset drift rotation equals camera calculate camera drift delta, apply that to offset. So the main bulk of the work that I've done is inside calculate camera drift. I'm going to try to be quick because I don't want to waffle too much. So checking if paddle, I've got a bunch of variables on top, stuff like this, tuning values basically, but we'll see them in a second. So in here, the reason why we pulled delta is because we need it for frame time and to calculate velocity, because we need to calculate, okay, in order to calculate velocity, we need the movement distance divided by time. Delta will give us that time. So if delta is less than or equal to 0, just return with the current. We're reading the paddle's current x position, so the current paddle x is paddle.global x. And then this is just handling the first frame, because the first frame wouldn't have a previous paddle x, right? So we're just making the current paddle, the previous has a previous paddle is now true, and then return with nothing, so that the first frame isn't just twisting and moving. Then we calculate the paddle velocity. So the delta, so the current paddle x minus the previous paddle x, that gives us the distance. And then paddle delta x divided by delta, so that's what we spoke up there. Velocity equals movement distance divided by time, so we're taking movement distance divided by time gives us the velocity. And then the previous paddle x now becomes the current paddle x. That's just so that we're constantly measuring the distance between frames, basically. Then we normalize the velocity, so drift strength, mathf.clamp, which I'm using a lot today. Paddle velocity x divided by camera drift velocity max, which is up here. A tuning value that I've set. How fast the paddle must move before the camera reaches max drift. Oh, let's go back up here so that I can track this. There we go. So I've set that to what, 400? Yeah, 400. So if the paddle is moving at 200 divided by 400, that'll give us 0.5. So the drift strength is 0.5, and then this is just a clamp to make sure it doesn't go above or below. Target offset creates the target offset, so we get the drift strength times by camera drift max offset. Should be up here, which is the maximum number of pixels the camera can drift sideways, so it's stopping the camera drifting too much. Where's it gone? So yeah, creating the target offset with obviously the second value y being 0 because we're only moving left and right, so the x value. We're getting the target rotation, which is minus drift strength times camera drift max rotation. You can guess what that is. I had to minus it, so I think I asked ChatGPT because I'd rather be transparent and just be honest whether I'm using AI or not. This was a lot to do, so I had to. So I believe minus makes it rotate with the paddle. If I get rid of that minus, it makes it rotate away from the paddle. So I had to minus that and then get the max rotation that I've set. Smoothing, this smooths it. I don't know how, honestly. And then we're taking current drift offset, current drift rotation, and doing a lerp on both of them basically, so that it's actually smooth instead of like jaggedy, and then returning both to that apply all camera fill. So I'll show you what I've got. I was tweaking the values. The ones that I was given was actually pretty good, so I left it at that. So you can see now I'm going to move the camera and you can see it ever so slightly tilts. You probably can't see it, but it does ever so slightly tilt, and I'd rather it just being slight. And obviously it moves as well. It is pretty subtle, and for some reason I still think it's a bit too much. I don't really like. So the idea of it was pretty good, but actually playing it in person, I don't know if it's a bit too much. Also the fact that the HUD doesn't move along with it, which I also still need to implement. Right now this is just for things inside the game. So the board, the playfield, the thing, you can see that the HUD, so the charge meter and the score doesn't move at all. So I do need to test that, because maybe if I turn the game movement off, but I have some sort of movement for the HUD, that it will actually look better. But for now I've implemented this, and you can see that it doesn't, like screen shake and stuff like that doesn't really affect it. So you can still have stuff like this and still have the camera move. So yeah, it's good. It's really difficult. As a recap, what we did, I can't remember what we did now. I'm pretty sure it was all in game feel. We did this. I had to change the architecture of how we're applying all the camera feel. What else did I do? I can't remember. I've done too many things today. In terms of next steps and things for the next devlog, I'm going to type it here now, and you'll see what I mean later. Next step, implement camera kick inside game feel, and that is this. So we can get rid of that. Apply all camera feel if camera kick enabled. Apply. So what that means is for any time the camera hits the wall, I want to make it like just jump slightly to kind of add effect. That probably might not feel good, considering I don't feel like the camera drift feels that good. But I'm gonna code it anyways and see how it feels. So there's no harm in trying that. That's the next step. On top of that, apply camera effects to HUD. So like I said before, with this, let me turn my thing off. I wanted to try move the camera in the game, but also I want to try and move the HUD and see which one's better, if they're good together, if one's better than the other. So I do need to do that. Apply camera effects to the HUD. And before all of that, major thing, fix scoring bug. I've got a scoring, it's not a bug, I know what it is. I've got a problem with scoring where I realized on ball hit, if I can find it, it's not here, it's down there somewhere. On ball hit, where we got the points to add, base points per strike, combo mult, score, add the points to add to score, add the combo mult increment to combo multiplier, emit stats change. That's normal, that all works. I realized that for super shot, I overlooked the combo mult and the points to add. I did implement some basic just patch on it that wasn't really doing anything. So we got on super shot detected, trigger super shot slowdown, add the points, emit the change, and I realized on this, the reason why I got a bunch of debug statements is I realized once the super shot has started, it emits the stats that have changed and applies the points to add and stuff like that. I would rather have it emit the stats have changed and apply the points at the end of super shot. So super shot is like this big build up, pause, boom, payoff, and then the stats should change. And I was realizing it triggers super shot slowdown, and yet it still continues in this method to do all of this while super shot is still building up. Also, the maths, I want to make it so that super shot is much more valuable. So this is just taking the basic sort of points for a normal hit. It should be much better, so you should get much more points and a much bigger combo mult increment if it is a super shot. So yeah, that is actually the next step before I do anything. That will be the start of tomorrow, that I need to fix this, because that was a huge oversight on my part. It shouldn't be too long. I just need to write down what I think would be a good way to calculate a score increment and a combo mult increment, and then make sure that it emits the changes at the end of super shot slow at the end of super shot slowdown. Sorry, I've done a lot of coding today. I'm knackered. So yeah, that's the plan for the next episode. Fix scoring bug, implement camera kick, and then apply camera effects to the HUD. With that all said and done, that's it. It was a good day, good productive day, and I'm gonna get this episode of the devlog edited and uploaded. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching.